That night, Ian and Donna stepped into the forest said to be haunted by ghostly cries. Donna grumbled about being dragged out there in the middle of the night, while Ian calmly replied that it was only natural for a knight to accompany the Saintess on her duties. When she asked where Finn was, Ian said he'd been tied up with work lately. Donna reminded him that he wasn't supposed to be walking around in his male form. Ian brushed it off, saying there was no need to worry. Every female student had already gone home, and no sane person would wander into the woods at this hour anyway. His logic made sense, so Donna just sighed and kept searching for ghosts beside him. But someone was secretly following them, hiding in the bushes. It was Lorenz. He squinted through the leaves, wondering who the hell that guy next to Donna was. A few hours earlier, Lorenz had seen Donna through his dorm window, walking with a man outside. As the class president, he told himself he couldn't just ignore such scandalous behavior, going out alone with a guy somewhere private this late at night. As soon as he told the dorm supervisor he was heading out, Lorenz hurried after Donna. The supervisor said it was fine as long as it was for a good reason, and told him to put in a good word with his father. Back in the present, as Lorenz trailed behind Donna and Ian, he wondered what kind of relationship they had to be wandering this deep into the woods alone. Just as he started thinking there might be something going on between them, Verdio suddenly appeared behind him. Lorenz flinched at Verdio's sudden appearance, but before he could say anything, Verdio gripped his shoulder tightly and muttered that Donna was his best friend. Lorenz, still trembling, asked if he was Verdio and what he was doing there. Verdio paused for a moment, then said he was out here to spot ghosts. Lorenz frowned, thinking he was a total weirdo. Lowering his voice, he asked if Verdio was stalking Dana. Verdio snapped back that it wasn't his business and told him to stop following him. Donna sensed movement behind them and told Ian that something was there. The moment she spoke, Ian screamed and clung tightly to her. An awkward silence followed. When Donna asked if he was scared of ghosts, Ian flinched and, still trembling, shouted that ghosts didn't exist in this world and that she must have just misheard something. Donna wondered if a holy saintess was supposed to be afraid of ghosts. She said she was sure she'd heard something over there. Then she told Ian she was going to check, and just as Ian started to tell her to wait, Dana suddenly slipped and fell off the cliff. Ian shouted her name in panic and reached out his hand and fell after her. They both plunged into the river below. Luckily, the current carried them toward the shore, and they managed to swim to solid ground. They were both exhausted and drenched. Ian said they were lucky there was a river beneath the cliff, or they would have become ghosts together. Donna shouted at him, asking what he was thinking, jumping down with her like that. Ian snapped back, yelling if she expected him to just leave her there and do nothing. Ian went on, saying he'd told her before not to run off alone. He started to ask if she even knew what being careful meant, but before he could finish, both he and Donna sneezed at the same time. Ian said this wasn't the time for arguing and that they needed to warm up first, but before he could finish, Donna suddenly sat down, holding her leg in pain. Startled, Ian asked if she was hurt. Donna said she was fine and told him it was just a slight sprain, that she could still walk. Ian stayed silent for a moment as he watched her, then suddenly stepped forward and lifted Donna up in his arms. Startled by his sudden action, Donna shouted for him to put her down, demanding to know what he was doing. Ian gave her an annoyed look and ignored her protests, saying there was no way she could walk on that leg. A while later, they found shelter in a cave and started a fire to warm up. Ian tore a piece of his own clothes and wrapped it tightly around Dana's ankle. He said it didn't look broken, luckily, and told her to see the doctor once they got back to school. Dana looked at him with a puzzled look, wondering why he was acting so unlike himself. Ian let out a sigh and muttered that they needed to figure out where they were if they wanted to find their way back. He looked at Donna and said he'd go check the area, telling her to wait there. When Donna tried to stand and go with him, Ian stopped her, saying she was hurt and shouldn't follow. He said if she tried to come along, she'd just slow them down and make things worse, so she should stay there. Donna was at a loss for words for a moment, then quietly apologized to him. she went on, saying that it was her fault Ian had fallen into the water too. She admitted she might have spoken too harshly, but added that, just like before, he didn't have to go so far and put himself at a disadvantage for her sake. Ian asked if she really thought he was the kind of guy who'd just let his subordinate die without doing anything. Donna didn't answer, but she couldn't help thinking that maybe he really had been like that before. She then said that from now on she'd be more careful so she wouldn't cause any trouble. Hearing that, Ian's expression turned complicated, and he quietly muttered that wasn't the reason at all. Ian wondered why he was even worried about Donna. If something happened to her, it would actually make things easier for him, one less headache to deal with. So why? He let out a quiet sigh as he looked at her, shivering from the cold with her clothes still soaked from the river. He cleared his throat and said, anyway, that was the reason. Then he took off his cloak and handed it to Donna, telling her to cover herself with it. Ian added that it had a restoration spell on it, so it should already be dry, and said he couldn't have his escort knight catching a cold. Dana asked if Ian was okay, but he snapped back that it was an order. He said she really couldn't go a day without talking back. Donna pulled the cloak around her shoulders and thanked him. Caught off guard by her sudden gratitude, Ian's face turned red. Trying to play it off, he sat down beside her and said he'd stay there until sunrise anyway. Wandering around in the dark wouldn't do them much good, he added. Donna gave him a suspicious look and asked why he was sitting so close. Flustered, Ian shouted that it was to keep their body heat up and that it wasn't like he wanted to sit near her or anything. Ian pulled the hood of the cloak over Dana's head and told her to lean back and get some rest. He said he'd stay awake since he was in better shape than she was. Donna wasn't used to seeing Ian act so considerate and thought he seemed like a completely different person. As that thought crossed her mind, she leaned against him and slowly drifted off to sleep. A few hours later, Donna was startled awake by someone shouting her name. The ones calling her name were Lorenz and Vertio. Both of them looked relieved, yet worried, as they said they'd finally found her and asked if she was all right. Donna was startled by Vertio and Lorenz's sudden appearance, but then she realized that if they saw the Saintess in her male form, it would be a huge problem. In a hurry, Donna threw the coat to Ian and told him to hide. She then turned to Vertio and Lorenz, asking what brought them there. Lorenz explained that they had just happened to find her while taking a walk and said that helping others was a noble's duty. He added that he'd seen her fall off the cliff earlier and asked if she was really okay. Donna replied that, as they could see, she was perfectly fine. At her answer, Lorenz sighed in relief and glanced around. He said he was sure he'd seen her fall with a man and asked if she had been with someone. Caught off guard, Donna stammered, asking what he meant by someone. Then Lorenz noticed a piece of fabric sticking out from the corner, and Dana froze in panic. As Lorenz moved toward where Ian was hiding, something suddenly shot out from behind, hitting him and Vertio before they could react. Both of them collapsed to the ground, losing consciousness. Dana froze, fear spreading across her face as she wondered if they might be dead. Then a voice came from behind telling Dana not to worry and reassuring her that they had only passed out because of sleep darts. It was Finn. He let out a sigh of relief, saying that had been a close call. When Donna asked what he was doing there, he explained that the forest was part of his work area and that he had come after hearing something nearby. When she asked what kind of work he meant, Finn smiled and said he'd been dealing with assassins targeting the Saintess all by himself. With a grin, he added that Donna had been too busy with exams to help anyway. Donna suddenly realized that the eerie cries echoing through the forest were actually the screams of assassins. Ian remarked that this explained why Finn hadn't been around lately. Donna asked if even he hadn't known about it. Ian said he preferred to stay out of his people's personal lives. Finn shrugged and said it hadn't been enough to bother mentioning anyway. Finn asked how they had ended up in a place like this, and Donna told him everything that had happened. After hearing the whole story, Finn looked surprised and said he hadn't realized such rumors were going around. He added that it would be hard to keep working here from now on. Ian suggested restricting student access to the area for now. Agreeing with him, Finn added that he'd also need to move the ones he had already buried somewhere else. Hearing that, Dana's face turned pale. Ian praised Finn for his hard work, saying he was impressed that Finn had been putting in overtime without being told to. He added that he'd make sure to give him some extra pay next time, and Finn's face brightened at his words. Donna asked what they would do when Lorenz and Vertio woke up. Finn reassured her that it was fine, explaining they'd probably lost about 5 hours of memory before fainting. Once he finished up, Finn cheerfully said he was going to continue his work and stepped out of the cave. Moments later, the distant screams of assassins echoed through the forest. Hearing the screams, Ian smiled brightly and said they'd wasted their energy over something so small. Watching his cheerful expression, Donna thought to herself that maybe people are scarier than ghosts. The next morning, Vertio and Lorenz were moved to the infirmary. Because of that, the two of them ended up sharing the same bed. Lorenz woke with a start and sat up in surprise. Donna asked if he'd slept well, and Lorenz looked around, confused, asking where he was and why he was sharing a bed with Vertio. Donna awkwardly repeated the line she had practiced, explaining that she had found the two of them lying on the ground while on patrol under the Saintess's orders. She added that she'd brought them to the infirmary afterward. Lorenz asked if Donna had really been on patrol, and Donna, flustered, told him not to think too much about it. She added that he must have hit his head pretty hard. Still looking confused, he slowly tried to recall what he'd been doing the night before. He remembered seeing Donna heading into the forest with a man, so he decided to follow her. While following her, he also recalled running into Vertio. Lorenz went on, saying his memory before passing out was a bit fuzzy, but he clearly remembered seeing her go into the forest with a man after midnight. He then asked what she had been doing alone with a man at that hour. Flustered, Donna replied that she had no idea what he was talking about. Standing beside them, Vertio gave her a creepy look and said there shouldn't be any secrets between best friends. Donna realized they weren't going to let it go that easily. She also noticed that they probably hadn't seen the Saintess's face and didn't seem to remember what had happened in the cave. So she insisted that she'd been alone the night before and asked what on earth they'd seen. At her words, the two flinched and froze. Donna worried they might not buy it, but Lorenz suddenly gasped, saying that what he saw must have been the ghost from the rumors. Beside him, Vertio's eyes lit up with excitement at the mention of a ghost. Relieved that they actually fell for her ridiculous lie, Donna let out a quiet sigh. And so the Saintess told the students that the rumors turned out to be the sounds of wild animals. She warned that these creatures were dangerous and told everyone to stay away from the forest. As a result, the ghost incident came to an end. 2 days later, the Saintess proudly showed off her new summer outfit to Donna and talked about how pretty it was. While she was talking, Donna casually said it was nice. The Saintess was completely stunned by Donna's sudden compliment. The Saintess turned to Finn and asked if she'd really heard that right. She whispered, wondering if Donna actually meant it as a compliment. Finn looked confused and said he'd heard it too, giving her a doubtful look. Right after he said that, Donna suddenly coughed. The Saintess frowned and asked if she'd caught a cold. Donna just stared at the Saintess with a blank look. Unsteady on her feet, she said she was fine and asked if she could go to class first. The Saintess grabbed her hand and told her to wait. Realizing Donna was burning up, she told her to stay home and rest. Donna said she couldn't skip class since it would affect her scholarship. The Saintess grew upset, asking if that really mattered, but Donna kept insisting she was fine. Dana's face went pale, and before anyone could respond, she fainted. That night, Ian returned to his male form and stayed by her side, quietly taking care of her. He couldn't help but wonder if she'd gotten sick after falling into the water that day. While Donna was dreaming about her past life, she saw her classmates bullying her for being poor. In her previous life, Donna lived in a tiny dorm-style room, the kind of place so small and thin-walled that you could hear her coughing from the next room. She threw herself into her studies, hoping to escape her miserable reality. She even picked up old workbooks her classmates had thrown away and reused them. Seeing that, Her classmates belittled her and made fun of her for not having parents. Donna kept telling herself it was okay, believing that once she got into a good college, all of this would finally be over. And on the day of the college entrance exam, she was hit by a truck. When Donna opened her eyes, Ian was sitting beside her. She asked how long she'd been asleep, and he said she'd been out the whole day. He told her it was still early morning and that she should take her medicine and get some more rest. But Donna insisted she had to go to class since attendance was important for keeping her scholarship. Then Ian asked if she wanted to pass out again like she did today, adding that if his escort night was seen like that outside, people would question his dignity. Donna said she was fine and promised she wouldn't cause him any trouble. Ian sighed and asked if that little scholarship was really that important to her. Dana snapped at his comment, but he kept going, asking why she was being so reckless over a few pennies. Donna was about to snap back at him, but her thoughts drifted to her painful past. She said this was the only way she knew how. Ian didn't understand what she meant. Donna shouted that he had no idea what her life had been like. She admitted she'd been frustrating and foolish, but this was all she had. She went on, saying she had to live this way. She wanted to rest and do nothing when she felt sick, and asked if he really thought she wanted to live such a pathetic life. Donna scoffed, saying her situation was none of his business, and added that he must have spent his whole life doing whatever he wanted. For a moment, she realized how harsh her words sounded. Ian asked if she'd said everything she wanted to, then went on to admit she was right. He didn't know what her life was like, and he'd never lived as miserably as she had. Donna was stunned by what he said. But Ian continued, saying that someone as noble as him could never understand a commoner like her. He added that her disrespectful words were practically blasphemy, but since he was generous, he'd let it slide just this once. Donna was taken aback and wondered what kind of person he really was. Then he said there was one thing he disagreed with, that he had never thought she was foolish. He knew she didn't like owing anyone and said that must be why she tried so hard to live with pride. He added that what she was doing wasn't something just anyone could manage, though he wasn't sure if that was a good thing or not. Donna asked if he was angry at her. Ian snapped back that he wasn't such a jerk that he'd get mad at someone who was sick. He flicked her on the forehead and said she probably thought he'd spent his whole life indulging in luxury. But he told her he didn't live like this, because he wanted to. Who would want to play a stand-in, like a clown putting on a show? He added that she didn't know him, just as he didn't know what she was going through. Donna asked why he was telling her that, and reminded him he'd said it was a state secret before. Irritated by her words, he pushed her back onto the bed, telling her to stop complaining and get some sleep. When she tried to bring up her classes, he explained that since she was so obsessed with her scholarship, he'd already marked her absence as being on duty for the Saintess. He said he was letting it slide just this once and told her to take better care of herself from now on. If she ever got sick again, she should report it right away. Even in this world, she never truly belonged anywhere. Everything around her always felt distant and blurry, but he was starting to come into focus, and she found that strange. The next morning, Finn asked Donna if she was feeling better. She said she felt much better after getting some rest. Hearing that, Finn said it was a relief and mentioned that Ian had been really worried about her. Then Donna turned at the sound of the door opening. It was Ian, asking if she was all right. He placed his hand on her forehead to check if her fever had gone down, and she was startled by his sudden touch. Making fun of her, he said she was back to work starting today and should be ready because he planned to give her lots of work. Then he left the room. Then suddenly, Donna blushed and wondered why her body felt hot again even though she wasn't sick anymore. That day, the trio Donna had nicknamed the Husband Hunters came up to her in class and asked if she was free that evening. When Donna asked what they wanted, they told her there was a big social event that night. One of them said they had an open spot and invited her to join. Donna said she wasn't interested in parties and turned them down. But Chloe quickly grabbed her arm, eyes gleaming, and said plenty of handsome young nobles would be there, calling it the perfect chance to hunt for, no, They meant to build connections with high-class men. Donna thought Chloe's eyes looked a bit intense and said that as a commoner, she'd only attract unwanted attention if she went to a place like that. Chloe gave her a helpless look and explained that, like she'd said before, her family was noble in name only, a farming household that had bought their title, so most students tended to avoid her. Beside her, Bella admitted that she was actually born a commoner. She said she'd been fortunate to be adopted into a noble family, but since she wasn't talented in academics or swordsmanship like Dana, she tried to help her household through social events. She added that tonight's party was especially important for her family's reputation, but they couldn't attend unless all the spots were filled. They said Dana was their last hope and begged her to come, their eyes full of desperation. The party, they added, was being held at a hotel famous for its amazing desserts. Dana perked up at that, and they quickly mentioned it was a buffet where she could eat as much as she wanted. Dana hesitated for a moment, then asked if she could just go for the food and leave afterward. The girls eagerly agreed, assuring her she only needed to show her face. Siri whispered that honestly, she just couldn't pass up such an opportunity. Chloe quickly told her to keep it down, then turned to Dana, saying she should get ready right after class and that she could borrow one of her dresses. After school, the Saintess stared at Dana's outing request form for a long moment, before glancing at Finn and asking if Dana even had any friends. Finn asked why she'd approved it so easily this time. The Saintess said she was a generous boss and saw no reason to stop Dana from going out to have a little fun with her friends. She added that the party venue was a church-owned hotel with stricter security than the academy, so there was no need to worry about assassins sneaking in. Finn told her that wasn't the point, and explained that the party Dana was going to was actually a group meetup. The Saintess asked what a meetup was, and Finn quietly explained that it was basically a group dating event where young men and women pair up, looking for a bit of excitement. Hearing that, the Saintess was utterly shocked and yelled that there was no way Dana would ever go to such an indecent place, insisting that Finn must have misunderstood something. Finn looked a bit troubled but said the information was reliable. He'd checked the party venue himself. He added that Dana was at the age where dating was only natural. Then Finn added that since she was always stuck with a grumpy cross-dressing guy, maybe she just needed someone fun to relax with for a change. At Finn's reckless words, her expression hardened, and she demanded what he had just said. Then Finn asked if she was really okay with Dana having a special relationship with another man. Meanwhile, at the party, while the girls were laughing and chatting with the guys, Dana stood off to the side, quietly eating the desserts as she watched them have fun. She soon realized it was basically a group dating event and thought she didn't belong there, regretting ever coming in the first place. Still, she remembered how, in her previous life, she'd always wanted to experience something like this in college. But now that she finally had, it felt like nothing special at all. After finishing her desserts, she decided to slip out quietly. As Dana was leaving the party, someone suddenly called out to her. It was one of the men from the event, asking if she was heading home already. When he approached her, Dana answered a little awkwardly that she had to leave early for something. He asked what it was, and Dana explained that she had class the next day and still needed to review her lessons. The man praised her for being so diligent, but then smirked and asked if all commoners were like that. Dana was taken aback by his sudden change in attitude. He said it was his first time ever talking to a commoner and found it kind of interesting. He added that he'd only come to the event because he'd heard there was a commoner adopted into a noble family, but he hadn't expected to meet an actual commoner there. Dana grew suspicious of his intentions. When she said she was going to head out first, he grabbed her by the shoulder to stop her. Then he said that he actually liked her, and at his words, Dana flinched. He went on to say that even though he already had a fiancé, nobles like him usually kept a lover or two, asking if someone of her low status shouldn't be grateful for such an opportunity. Dana was about to snap back at his rude remark when a flower vase suddenly came flying and smacked the man on the head. He fell to the floor, shouting and demanding to know who had suddenly appeared. The person stepped on his back and asked if he'd slipped, since he'd made such a dramatic fall. It was the Saintess. Donna asked why the Saintess was here. The Saintess replied that since the hotel belonged to the church, it wasn't strange for her to visit. The man hurriedly introduced himself, saying it was an honor to meet her. He said his name was Moblet, the legitimate heir of the Gordon family, and enthusiastically added that meeting her in person was the greatest honor of his and his family's lives. He asked if she would let him shake her hand just once, but the Saintess looked down at him in silence. The Saintess sneered and asked why she should shake hands with someone as lowly as him. The man froze at her question. She went on to say that she'd been rude, but she was just surprised. She'd never met someone so lacking in dignity before, so the words slipped out. She said she hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but she'd overheard him earlier making some rather embarrassing remarks to Donna about status and rank. Taking Donna's hand, the Saintess said that Donna was her dearest and most precious friend. As the goddess's representative, she added that, in her eyes, Dana's honesty and diligence carried far more dignity than a man who flaunted his family name. The man looked flustered and quickly said she'd misunderstood him. The Saintess's face turned cold as she asked if he really intended to keep showing his filthy face to her. At her words, the man froze for a moment, then stammered an apology for his rudeness before hurrying out of the hotel. Standing beside her, Donna asked if the Saintess had come to check on her again. She reminded her that she'd said it was fine for her to go out somewhere safe. The Saintess replied that she'd told Donna to have fun with her friends, not to get involved with someone so disgraceful. She asked if Donna's standards had really fallen that low. Donna tried to explain, but the Saintess's unreadable gaze made her forget what she was going to say. The Saintess suddenly lifted Donna off her feet and said they were going back to the academy. Donna was startled by the sudden move. It felt like déjà vu. But since the Saintess wasn't in her adult male form, she struggled to carry Donna properly. Donna told her to put her down, saying she looked like she was struggling. The Saintess ignored her and kept walking with long, determined strides. As Donna looked at her face, she couldn't help but wonder why she seemed angry. Then Donna asked if the Saintess was jealous because she'd been with another guy. The Saintess's face turned red at the unexpected question. The Saintess went still for a moment, not saying a word. Donna said awkwardly that she seemed kind of upset and wondered why. Donna thought it was strange. Normally, the Saintess would have snapped at her, yelling that it was top secret and telling her not to say ridiculous things. But this time she stayed completely silent. Just as the Saintess finally opened her mouth to speak, Verdio suddenly appeared beside them. Both of them jumped at his sudden appearance, and the Saintess lost her balance and fell. Donna asked when he had gotten there and what he was doing in a place like this. Verdio said he'd overheard at school earlier that day that she was going to a meetup, and when he found out it was here, he decided to follow her. Donna was shocked, realizing he had basically been stalking her. Then he went on, saying that since outsiders weren't allowed inside, he'd been hiding near the entrance the whole time. He looked completely worn out. Donna told him they should just head back together, but Verdio asked what exactly she'd been doing inside, surrounded by all those guys. Donna was taken aback by his words and snapped back, asking what he thought she'd even been doing. The Saintess watched the two of them in silence. She wondered if someone truly special ever appeared in Donna's life, someone better than that lowly man from before. Would she really have the right to stop her? Especially when she herself couldn't even stand by Donna's side in her true form. The next day, Lawrence announced that the Chloris Academy Theater Festival was coming up soon. He explained that it was one of the Academy's oldest traditions, a festival entirely run by students, from planning and directing to performing on stage. He added that many distinguished guests would be attending, so everyone should give it their best and put on a great show. At his explanation, Siri said that Lorenz seemed excited, probably because it was finally his chance to show off as class president. Bella, sitting next to her, looked puzzled and asked if Lorenz was the class president. Lorenz told them to quiet down and continued explaining about the play. This year's performance was titled Romeo and Julieta. The story was about two lovers from rival families who fall into a forbidden love and meet a tragic end. As Donna read through the script, she realized it was almost identical to Romeo and Juliet from her previous life. But the ending was different. After the two lovers lost their lives, the goddess Chloris appeared, moved by their love, and brought them back to life, leading their families to reconcile in a happy ending. Lorenz announced that the role of the goddess would be played by none other than the Saintess herself. Donna couldn't help but wonder why the Saintess was even participating in the play. Then Lorenz began announcing the main cast for the play. First, the female lead, Julieta, was given to Chloe. Chloe proudly declared that there was nothing money couldn't buy, not titles, not roles, and that she'd make sure to capture the hearts of all the gentlemen attending the festival. In Romeo and Julieta, Lorenz took on the role of the villain, Tybalt. He proudly declared that even a villain was still a leading role, and vowed to put his all into portraying the character's cowardice and cruelty. Donna thought the role suited him perfectly, so much that she wondered if he even needed to act. Then Verdio suddenly panicked, telling them to stop. He said he'd been cast as the male lead, Romeo, and asked if there had been some kind of mistake. Siri, who was in charge of the script, told him that it had been a fair result decided by everyone's vote. She argued that in a romance play, the most important thing was the male lead's appearance. Bella, who was handling the direction, agreed and said that after seeing Vertio at the school event, she was sure he had incredible potential if he just dressed up a little. They added that the boys had kindly agreed to give up their spots, so Vertio had no choice but to play the lead for their class. Before they could say more, Vertio freaked out, shouted that he didn't want to, and jumped straight out the window, shattering the glass as he escaped. When Vertio ran off, the whole class shouted that they needed to catch him quickly. But Chloe smirked and said there was no need to rush. He couldn't run forever anyway. She reminded them that anyone who didn't take part in the festival would be expelled, so all they had to do was keep him around until the day of the performance. Watching the scene unfold, Donna couldn't help but worry about Vertio. Still, she was relieved that she'd been assigned to handle the props. It was probably the easiest job she could have gotten. That afternoon, in the forest, Donna and Finn were busy taking care of some assassins. Donna remarked that she didn't understand why everyone was so eager to take on the troublesome main roles or planning duties. Finn explained that the theater festival wasn't just a school event. It was also a stage for noble students to showcase their talents. It was a chance to make an impression not only on their parents but also on the high-ranking nobles who attended. Thanks to Finn's kind explanation, Donna finally understood why everyone was putting so much effort into the festival. After a moment, she asked if he had noticed that the number of assassins seemed to have increased lately. Finn replied casually that it was probably because of the theater festival season. With more outsiders coming and going, some troublemakers were bound to sneak in amid the commotion. He added that Donna would be busy during the theater festival anyway, so she didn't need to worry about him. Saying he could handle things on his own, he brought his shovel down hard on something with a sharp thud. Then Donna asked Finn something she'd been curious about for a while, what he used to do before all this. She said he seemed to know how to handle just about everything, which felt unusual for someone who was supposed to be just an attendant. Finn gave a faint, bitter smile at her question. He hesitated as if wondering whether it was really okay to tell her. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. He said he'd grown up in the slums, and for an orphan like him, there hadn't been many choices. He simply did whatever he had to do to survive. One day, some men approached him with a job that paid an enormous amount of money, one that turned out to be an assassination request. Back then, he didn't know who the target was. But even if he had known it was the Saintess, he admitted he probably would have made the same choice. At that time, he really would have done anything to survive. The clients had no idea who they were dealing with. What they didn't know was that the Saintess was actually a man. After a fierce fight, he ended up being defeated by the very person he was supposed to kill. Later, he said he'd tried to end his own life, but Ian stopped him. Ian told him he'd pay more for him instead. Said his skills were way too good to just throw away on death. Because of that incident, he'd been working under Ian for the past 3 years. Thanks to him, Ian even took in his younger siblings. Finn asked if Donna remembered meeting them the other day. Donna was surprised and asked if his siblings were the maids from before. She said they didn't look anything like him. Finn said they weren't related by blood, but after living together for so long, he thought of them as his family. Donna asked if that meant Ian had been acting as the Saintess even before coming to the academy, 3 years ago. She wondered what had happened to the real Saintess. Finn replied that there were complicated reasons behind it. He said Ian had been serving as the Saintess's stand-in since he was 14 and had never once gone outside in his real form. Finn smiled and said that's why Donna should go easy on Ian, even if he seems a little odd sometimes. He added that Ian might look like he lives without a care in the world, but he actually has a lot going on. Donna thought to herself that he was basically insulting Ian, but saying it like it was nothing. It was the first day of rehearsals for the academy play. Lorenz, who was playing Tybalt, the rival in love, walked up to Verdio, who had been cast as Romian, ready to take down his competition. In the script, Romian was supposed to block Tybalt's sword with grace and strike him down in a dramatic finish. But the moment Lorenz came toward him, Vertio dropped to the ground, trembling and begging for mercy, saying he was sorry and that he'd just disappear. Siri shouted in frustration, demanding that there was no point in doing this play if the male lead disappeared from the scene. Chloe let out a sigh, saying they hadn't even gotten to the important scene yet and wondering if they should replace the male lead altogether. Watching the chaos unfold, Donna picked up the script, walked toward Verdio, and began reading Giulietta's lines herself. As Donna stepped closer and began acting out her lines, Verdio's expression changed. This time he was different, his voice steady, his movements natural, like he had truly become Romian, a man in love with Giulietta. Chloe was impressed by his acting and asked why he hadn't been able to say a single line earlier if he could perform that well now. Vertio hesitated before muttering that it had just came out that way, because his partner was Donna. Hearing his answer, Chloe said that if he could act properly when Donna was around, then she should be his practice partner. She asked Donna to help Verdio rehearse until the day before the festival. Donna was startled by Chloe's sudden suggestion and asked why she had to do that. Chloe replied that she'd just seen how smoothly Verdio had recited his lines with Donna. If he practiced with her, she was sure he'd be able to perform on stage without a problem. But Vertio, now looking unusually determined, insisted that he wanted to practice with Donna. Donna was taken aback by his reaction. Verdio went on, saying that practicing with her might help him get used to acting, his eyes full of determination. Standing beside him, Chloe asked Donna if she was really going to turn him down when he was this motivated. With a reluctant sigh, Donna finally agreed to be his practice partner. Then Chloe dropped a shocking request, saying the two of them should start practicing the most important scene of the play, the kiss scene. Donna was completely taken aback, not even realizing there was a kiss scene in the script.